Mr. Leopard, please help me out. Is it me who has a problem? Should I be worried? My fiancé, whom we have dated for a year now, has a problem with me seeking to be independent, desiring to have my own money. He says that I'm too materialistic and that his parents actually say that I'm not the type that can kula shida. I'm not the type that can endure hardships. Should I be worried? Our wedding is coming up in 5 months, but I am just freaking out because of all this. Please help me, Leopard. Okay, so I would like to respond to this particular question by Melody by speaking to a myriad of sets of various people who actually may find themselves in three of the categories that I'm just about to mention. So the first category, there are people who've grown up in hardship, they've grown up in lack, and they've grown up in poverty in such a way that they have been able to embrace it, accept it, and almost think that it is a way of life. So this kind of people, whenever they want to get married to somebody, the men are in a way chauvinistic, but more importantly, they believe that it is the woman who does not have an appetite for glamorous things, a woman who does not have an appetite for plenty, a woman who is satisfied with lack and poverty, a woman who will not desire for a little more either for themselves or from the husband. And so this is a norm in such a way that if you come and you are desirous of being able to make a few more shillings on you, if you want to request or demand for a little more from your husband, then you do not fit the pedigree of the expectation. Now, if you marry in that kind of a home and you are enlightened, if you are ready to live with that threshold of poverty, then it is okay for you. But if you've been enlightened, you have skills, you are trained to work, you are a trained teacher, you are a trained banker, you are educated and trained with some skills, then you definitely will not fit that kind of a family setup. It will just be disaster. It will end in trouble anyway, even if you feel that you love that fella so much. For as long as this fella does not imagine you bringing in something on the table, for as long as this fella is insecure about the fact that anybody who has power with money, and for that matter a woman, is a threat to them, that relationship will not work. And even if it works with your guy, you will have a hell around your general ecosystem with the wider family, yet you are supposed to embrace them as family. There is another category of people, particularly, and we're talking, the person who asked is a woman. So there are women who have fine taste, who have a luxurious and sophisticated taste, but every time they budget for this taste, they are budgeting it on the bank account of the guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying that if you have that kind of a woman, then it may make sense for you to put this woman to test, to understand that should circumstances be otherwise and play out in such a way that you don't have enough for luxury, you just have enough for basics, you could even get sick and you may not be able to work, and probably your assets may not be able to feed you for the longest. So it is okay to also put out this particular test, and if it turns out that this particular woman who has expensive taste only incidentally and surprisingly comes from poverty and does not have a plan or intention or motivation of her own self to be able to put something on the table except banking on what you will bring on the table, then you may really want to ask yourself, well, it is a good thing that this is the kind of a person who may challenge you to work harder and bring in more, and that's a beautiful thing. But you just need to be sure that should you not bring in this luxury, what is gonna happen? Because it's important that the person who has an appetite for luxury, like myself, should be willing to work hard for it, should be willing to be a good manager and a good steward. And that brings me to the third point, that I think the balance should be drawn like this, that poverty attracts poverty for those who seek to glorify poverty. However, you can get out of poverty if your mentality thrives and aspires to greater ideals. So the rich people generally, they like to have a general transfer of wealth amongst themselves. And the people who embrace wealth and who embrace riches, even though they be coming from poverty or from an average life, they always aspire to greater ideals to such an extent that if you come from this community, and I want to quote some of them just for the sake of it. The Kikuyus, the Maragolis in my loyal land. I mean, if you have a guy who is fine, I mean, he drives a car, has a good house, dresses nice, has a good job, they will try to entice you to stick to that one. Even if it was just a friend who was passing by, they'll ask you, hey, what happened to that friend of yours? There is this guy who was like this and was like that. He was this tall and he was like this, the one who had this kind of a car. What happened? We never hear you talk about it. Why? Because they have gotten to a point to appreciate that wealth matters, to appreciate that money answers all things. And if we look at the gifts, the talents that were given, I mean, Jesus talks about a parable of a master who was going away and had 3 servants, gave one talent, gave 2 to another, and gave 5 to another. And when he came back, the one who had not worked it up, it was taken away from him, and it was given to the guy who had 5, who was given 5, doubled the 5, and then was given plus this 1. So it should be biblical for you to be able to desire great things and to desire to grow wealth and all that. It's a beautiful thing. So your question, back to Melody, you are asking, so is there a problem now? This is the issue. Any man that is worth his salt, any man that cares and values for a good life, and respects the fact that he was taken to school to impart knowledge, but above all, be innovative and be able to generate wealth, will desire to have a woman, not necessarily who likes luxury, but a woman who puts a premium on good things. That is to mean she'll be willing to work hard for her own money, but more importantly, if she's not working hard for her own money, then she is a good manager of the resources that come either from their husband or that comes from both of their hands. So a good manager, good steward is the biblical standard, I would say. But besides being a good steward, you can only attract those things that you have embraced and accepted in your mind and in your heart. So I see a lot of battles for you. And I am thinking that what you need to do, you need to have a little more sober discussion with this gentleman of yours and just let him know that when you are aspiring to great things, you are not necessarily trying to tell him that you are pushing him to be the one to provide each and every bit of that, but just make him understand that you are coming in to compliment him, you are coming in to support what he is doing, but then you want him to appreciate the fact that you also have God-given gifts with the potential of bringing in wealth, of bringing in money, but above all, that you are a good steward, that you are a good manager of the estate that you will build together with him. Let him understand that whatever you aspire to do, it is for the both of you, just like whatever he aspires to do is for the both of you. I don't know whether that helps, but you need a little more counseling on that front, because it simply means that this gentleman is coming from a point of insecurity, is coming from a background of an insecure set of people, comrades or even family, and so to penetrate that wall is going to take a little harder of a punching, but it is not the hardness in the punching, but it is the wisdom that comes with the punches that you throw around to break the glass ceiling.